Hello. My name is Elling. I'm the coordinator of the RPM Challenge. Welcome to today. I'm very excited about today. This is the final workshop in our workshop series for RPM Challenge workshops, and we're doing it in partnership with the NL Folk Arts uh, NL Folk Arts Society. And yeah, wow. I so what is it? It's almost the end of February. Unbelievable. So it's time to finish your RPM challenge record. It's February 27th. You have what? A day left? If you're not familiar, the RPM challenge is a creative challenge to anybody to record music in the month of February, and it's open to everybody, any level of experience, any genre, anyone, anywhere in the world. Um, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And Newfoundland in particular is has taken it on and made it its own. And um, so many people here do it and love it. And yeah, very happy about that. Today, the workshop. What are we doing today, Elling? We're gonna do a workshop on songwriting on a deadline. And if you know Sean Panting, you know that he's probably the perfect person to talk about this. Um, Sean Panting is a songwriter, musician, and actor from St. John's. In a music career extending back 3 decades to the heyday of cassette tapes and acid wash, he has performed alongside musical luminaries like Ron Sexsmith and Billy Bragg, played in seminal Newfoundland bands Drive and Kelly Russell and the Planks, and released 5 solo albums. His sixth, The Simple Machines, showcases his deft songwriting and uh, uh, razor stashed, razor sharp songwriting skills in 9 installments of 3-minute hits. Yeah, today is presented by the NL Folk Arts Society and Unpossible NL. And Unpossible NL's supporters this year are the City of St. John's and ArtsNL. Sean, hello. How are you?
Oh, I'm dandy. How you making out?
Good. I was just
Fantastic.
very excited to have you on here today. It's been a while since I've seen you, even, but I always have loved hearing you do the. Oh, I loved it when you were doing the morning show news songs.
Yes, they're always
Uh,
they're a riot to do, and slightly terrifying because you do them in an hour.
yeah, that's what you. So what was what uh I don't know. I don't know where to begin, but I want to ask about the morning the morning show
Sure.
stuff. Like how does that work? How did that work? You had an hour to do something, and
Well, it started out a really long time ago, um, and I would do these songs, and they'd like give me a call at like supper time the previous day, and they'd say, we'd like you to do a song about this, or we'd like you to do a song about that, or we'd like you to do a song about something else, and the window of time between the call and the having to do the song started to shrink a little bit. And also, I wanted to go to sleep and do all the regular stuff like that. And I figured that a couple of years back, I decided in order to make it more interesting for the listeners, they could pick the song topic. And what would make it more interesting still is that I would do it in an hour. Now, I went with that pitch, which they really enjoyed, but I had never actually done it. so I, so I went in there and they called it panting under pressure, which is exactly how it felt. And the first morning that I did it, at about 20 minutes into the hour, I had nothing. I had like nothing, and I thought, oh wow, this is going to be humiliating. But terror is great. Terror is a tremendous motivator. So, and in a lot of those cases, there was a lot of things that were already figured out about the song, and very often they ended up being parody songs, which is easier still because then you're playing a game of hunt and replace on words. Um, uh, yeah, so it's not super easy, but it's not impossible. Obviously, since I did it.
um, yeah, terror is good. Is terror is having a deadline in front of you and having it laid out in that way, it is a good motivator. Uh, so like, why do you think that is? Like, what is it? Just
Because it gets you into a different mode. It gets you into a different mode where you are making yes or no, this or that type of decisions, right? Just sort of in general, and this is sort of an overall philosophical thing that I have. I mean, if you tell somebody to draw a picture, I am not a visual artist. I'm not really a visual person. I have a really hard time picturing stuff. But if you say, draw me a picture, and they say, what kind of picture? And you say, I don't know. And say, how big? And you go, I don't know. And what colors? I don't know. Like, that is so broad that there's nothing you can do. So you got sort of paralysis, right? You got option paralysis happening there. I'm a big fan of constraints. Like, that's why pop songs are so amazing, right? The older I get, the shorter the songs get. And they just condense and condense and condense. And so all of these classic pop song writers, your Lennon and McCartney's, et cetera, they were and are geniuses at this thing. But part of what helps them along is the parameters, right? And parameters are good. So once you introduce some boundaries, that's where you can make things interesting within those boundaries, and that's sort of where the sweet spot is, as far as I'm concerned.
So when you're writing on a deadline, what how do you approach it? Like, what's the kind of first thing that you do?
The first thing,
I'm sorry if I'm derailing your process or anything, but
you are not derailing the process
okay.
at all.
Okay.
No, like, let's just do it.
Okay.
The first thing, well, I get a couple of reminders happening. First of all, contrary, and it seems contrary to what I just said about the CBC songs, but when I'm writing a song for myself, I almost never want to come in with an idea. I almost never want to think to myself, I'm going to write a song about, I'm going to write a song about this event in my life, or I'm going to write a song about this feeling that I'm having right now, or I'm going to write a song. And sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes that's the job. Sometimes you have to write a song about something in particular. But if left to my own devices, I won't start having any ideas. What I'll do is I'll start at a random place, a very, very random place. Because the thing about it is, not to be too flaky about it, but the song already exists, right? The song already exists in some form or shape or form somewhere. Your job is to access it. And when I start with a song that's going to be one of my songs, wherever I start, whether it's a beer bottle or a guitar or a pen or a microphone or a light or a dog or a whatever, if I leave myself open and I just create without analysis right away and and just sort of get the process rolling, all that stuff that's inside of me that's all going to be expressed in the song. So it's a song about a dog, but it's never a song about a dog. It's always a song about me. When people write songs, they're not writing songs about what they're writing songs about. They're writing songs about themselves. So no matter where you start, if you don't try and impose order on it too early, you're going to get a song that means something to you. When the songs turn out to be kind of meh, or they don't have any, or they sort of start to sound generic, or they don't have any personal investment in them, I think that's because you move from creating to editing too quickly. And there's a bunch of reasons to do that. And I always try and short circuit that whenever I can.
I love the idea that the song is like it already, like, you assume that it already exists, like, so it exists in the future, and
Yeah.
you're just trying to get there.
Yeah, you're just trying to get there. And you're not even trying to get there. All you're trying to do is keep the part of your mind that edits and critiques things, hold it back long enough so that you're going to get something that it can work with. Because if you start editing the moment that something comes out of your mouth, you've got nothing to work with yet. So the part of your brain your brain is an amazing machine at critiquing and editing and finding flaws and all of that stuff. What you need to do first is give that part of your brain something to do to get it out of the way, and then you get a kind of a body of stuff that you can look at and examine. You put it together intuitively, and then you let the ruthless, nasty editorial part of your brain go to work on it, right? So you can't do both of those. I don't think you can't create and edit at the same time. So the editing part has to come. If you can push the editing part back long enough, you'll get a song faster, which doesn't seem like that when you're in kind of a panic saying, I got 2 hours, or I got an hour, or I got half an hour. That's not really you think that's not the case. But what you really need to do is you need to take the bulk of your time and give the creative part of your mind some space just to free associate, basically. Let the elves working in the workshop just feed you the stuff that's already there, because it's what you're thinking about. Because it's a song about you. You're thinking about you all the time on a certain level.
Writing a song about the elves in your brain. No, I probably
Maybe that's where you can start, but I guarantee you that's really what the song's going to be about. It's about you. That's what it's about.
That's so how do you get there?
Okay.
How do you turn that part of your brain off? Like, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
You give it a job. And your brain loves yes and no questions, and it loves narrowing options. So I think of it as I have a number of different images. So what I'm going for when I start is there's a jumping off point, and we'll get to that in a second. But what I'm doing is I am collecting a bunch of stuff that I like. They talk about crows and ravens going out and finding shiny things and bringing them back to the nest. That's kind of what it's like. You just find a whole bunch of things that you like. You're not writing a song yet. You've just got a bunch of words, or maybe a note, or maybe anything. And you're collecting them all together and just standing back and looking at them and see what catches your eye. So I find for jumping off points, there's a couple of different things that I'll do for jumping off points. One thing that's really simple is to pick an object that has no personal, like, don't pick the urn with your grandmother's ashes in it. That's got there's weight there, there's like stuff going on between you and that urn that you don't want to talk about. But this is a mug that was purchased where? I do not know. Color, not super fond of it, don't care at all. So, it's got coffee in it, but the coffee's kind of cold. Like, I have no feelings about this mug at all. It fell on the floor and broke. The mug is nothing to me. So I look at this mug, and I want to say some things and write them down about this mug. First of all, I'm not going to say the word mug, which, because why? And I'm going to say the first 5 things that come into my mind about this mug. And the words may or may not make sense, and it does not matter. So I'll look at it, and I'll say curvature, because it's got curves, and curvature is a great word, and curvature is a word that just falls out of my mouth. And without any other thinking, I'm going to say handle, and then I'm going to say tint, and then I'm going to say light, and then I'm going to say bounce. Like, there's a bunch of words, they just come out of my mouth, and I just write them all down. And when I feel like I've exhausted the number of things I can say, not about this mug, but inspired by this mug, I go back and I circle my 3 favorite ones. Right? Simple. And that's where the top of your brain is like, excellent, I can do that. And you just go down through your list and say, do I like this word or not? The answer is yes or the answer is no. And you do it fast. You just circle the word. Then you take and then you can do any number of things with those words. I usually jam them through. I use a lot of internet resources. I use a lot of rhyming dictionaries and stuff, and I almost never end up using the rhymes that the rhyming dictionaries come up with. I only ever really use them to sort things out. So what did I say? Let's say curve, just for an easy one. Tint. Yeah, okay. So you like tint. Great. So let's do that. Tint. So tint, and I'll search for some rhymes on tint. I use, because it's fun and it's like taking getting in a time machine and going back to 1998. I use rhymezone.com.
Oh yeah.
It's hilarious. It's just the design is so terrible and it works just fine. What I'm looking for, what I am looking for though in a rhyming dictionary or one of these things is not just rhymes. What I'm going to want to see is a function that's got descriptive words, related words, stuff like synonyms, definitions, as much stuff as you can get, because there's a drop down menu and it'll give you related words and all of that kind of stuff. So I'll take a look at tint and maybe I'll search through the rhymes first. So I take a search through the rhymes and then I'll just go down through, and with each one I'll say, do I like it, do I not like it? And if I like it, I write it down. And if I don't like it, I just keep moving. But the important thing is to not stop moving. Because as soon as you stop moving, the other part of your brain chimes in and says, you know what you could write a song about? It's got this, that word tint. That tint suggests to me something about art. And then all of a sudden you're trying to write a song about a painting and you're boned. Then it's not going to work out well, I don't think, for you. Unless there's something in you that needs to write that song. I'll look at some rhymes and then I'll find some more words, and I'll write down words that I like. I'll go to related words. Where is it? Find descriptive words. And it's got stuff in here like for tint, it'll have slider, effect, plate, paper, tools, tool, option, and whatever I see. When I see a word that I really like, I'll write it down. And again, if I find myself thinking about it for more than 2 or 3 seconds, I'm gone. No more no thinking. This is pure lizard brain stuff. Right? No thinking. And oftentimes, and then once you've filled a page, sometimes I'll fill a page, sometimes I'll fill 2 or 3 or 5 pages with this kind of stuff. And then maybe I'll take a look back at it then. But not until I have a big pile of stuff do I go back and look. And I'll circle the words that I like, and very often they'll be suggestive of something, or some of them will hang together. And as soon as you get a couple of words that hang together, and then maybe a couple of words that hang together and rhyme, now you're getting somewhere. But you have to, in my opinion, what I will do is I will delay having any thoughts about what the song is about. Probably I won't have any thoughts about what the song is about until after I write it. So that's one way that I do a jumping off point. It's kind of an automatic processes thing, and I use that all the time. Another jumping off point that I'll often use. I don't know. Are you still there, Elling? Your picture disappeared.
I'm still here.
Oh, good. Okay. I just Just for
I was just giving you room. That's all.
oh yeah, just for security purposes. Just where's Ellen?
I'm
Okay,
here.
no, that's cool.
Oh yeah,
See,
you can't
no,
even
you
see
can
me
go.
if I'm offline. Okay,
Oh yeah, it
so
was,
I'll keep myself small here.
there
How
you
about
go.
that?
No,
Is that better
that's
for you?
good. Yeah, that's
Oh,
good. That's good.
just while I have a moment,
Absolutely.
anybody in the chat, just like anybody watching, post a chat in saying where you're joining us from, or if you have any questions for Sean, I can just post them in the chat, and I'll bring them to Sean whenever there's a good moment. So
Yeah,
feel
I'm
free.
more than happy to answer any questions. More than happy to answer questions to the extent that I can answer them at all. I guess before I talk about the another jumping off strategy that I use, like I think inspiration is a wildly overhyped phenomenon. It
Waiting for
is.
your muse to
Oh yeah,
drop out of the
God, no,
sky.
no, no, no,
It's-
no. It's
what?
always going on in there, and there is, and people think of it as a finite resource too. They think of song ideas and lyric ideas and stuff as a finite resource, and I used to think that way as well. But it's not. It's not a well, right? People talk about the well running dry. It's not a well. It's a river. It's moving all the time. There's always new content coming in, and your mind is always at work on it. So you don't have any. You don't ever need to fear that this is ever going to dry up. As long as you are alive, this stuff is going to be bubbling up, and it's always going to be slightly different stuff. And a if a consistent theme starts to develop and you start to write about the same things all the time and all of that, I wouldn't really worry about that. That's just you being you talking about what's important to you. I don't see that as a problem, you know? Like if AC/DC can make like 30 billion albums about drinking and rocking and rolling and going to hell, surely you can you know, you can do an RPM that's got 3 songs about your cat on it. That's fine. So,
Or a chipmunk
yeah, yeah, exactly.
that you don't really care about.
No, exactly. So, yeah, so don't sweat that. And just another random piece of advice, the editorial part of your brain will want to, the moment that you think of an idea, will want to go, uh you know, somebody already did that, or oh, that sounds like somebody else, or oh, this sounds like another song. And look, there's 26 letters and there's 12 notes, and there's going to be some overlap. I'm not going to lie to you. However, the good news is that Barney the Big Purple Dinosaur was not lying when he told you that you are special. What you bring to it, this whole what you bring to it is what makes it unique. So that's why I'm talking about accessing the stuff that's going on underneath the critical brain, that little stew that's going on inside of you, that's tossing out the words, that likes the word golden better than it likes the word delicate, or likes the word uniform better than it likes the word peculiar. Like, that's what's going to make your song unique. Trying to mess around with stuff so that it has a combination of things that you've never heard before or never felt before is I think that's just going to lead you astray into something that's not real for you, right? When stuff comes up, and you, without any kind of analysis, write it down, that's a real thing. So trust that. Okay, so jumping off point number 2, this ideally works well with another person. But it's you can do it alone. I have done it alone, but it's harder to do because there's a little bit of editorial brain action that comes in at the end of it, and your editorial brain is a jerk and will tell you that there is nothing, that you are not doing a good job. If you're like me and 99.99% of the rest of the population, your editorial brain will be a jerk to you. So you can't listen to it. Here's what I do. Say you have another person in the room, you set a timer for 2 minutes, and you decide on a topic that person would like to talk about. Now this is nice if you do want to write a song about something in particular, or you have to write a song about something in particular, it's nice to do it this way. But it also works with a random topic. I'll often do random topics again. Like I could do this mug and do it this way. So you set a timer for 2 minutes, and you open up the voice recording function on your phone, and you talk without stopping for 2 minutes about whatever the object or topic or person or word or whatever the trigger is. You talk about it for 2 minutes. Then you get up and leave for 10 minutes. Then you play it back. If there's two of you, that's excellent, because you're not going to do anything else with this thing. What the other person is going to do is the other person is going to listen to what you said and pick out all the most interesting things about what you said and give it to you. I've done this with people a whole bunch of times in writing songs with them, and invariably I will write stuff down and I'll say, do you know what you said? You said this incredibly cool thing. You said this here. And they'll go, no, I didn't say that. And you say, nope, you definitely did. That is exactly what you said. And sometimes having another person there just to do that. And again, not to like spend a day ruminating about what the cool stuff is, but to quickly do it, to join you in this process, to do it as fast as humanly possible, to underline the stuff that is cool in what you just said and give it back to you. Very often that's where I get a lot of song, not really titles. I have a lot of songs where, or I guess anybody who writes songs, you'll be familiar with this, you know, where you'll get that line where you're like, aha, there's the line. That's the line that maybe it's not the first line, maybe it's not the title line, but it's the line that cracks it open for you, right? Where you get a statement where you go, that is true. I like this line. I like every word of it. And now I want to find something to rhyme with it, right? Very often you'll get cool results that way. And like I said, you can do it yourself. You just have to really be rigorous about doing it quickly. Like, I like this, I like this, I like this, I don't, and or else you're going to start getting into editorial stuff. And
Yeah,
judgment.
so your brain, so you can't catch yourself being critical about what you're saying.
No, it's all about the speed. At this point, it's all about the speed. You will get a chance to slow down. The whole thing's not a sprint. You'll get a chance to slow down. But in this initial phase, and again, you're not even writing a song yet. You're not. I mean, I was using a rhyme dictionary and whatnot, but you're not even thinking that way yet. You are just getting phrases and words and thoughts, as many of them as you can that are cool, and writing them all down. So once you have a batch of that stuff, then you can start making decisions about what goes together. And then you're playing kind of a matching game, right? These words go together, and you can draw lines. Sometimes I like having the visual effect of actually like having stuff down on paper. Very often, actually, I'll write on a laptop, and I'll do whatever, color code things or cut and paste them into little boxes or whatever it takes to give it to get them all together. And then you will find that there is somewhere in there. I've never encountered a situation where it was just a bunch of random crap that didn't have anything to do with anything else. There will be one overarching theme in everything that you picked or liked, or there'll be two, and you'll look and you'll go, oh, I like these words, but I like these words more. And then you've got a batch of stuff that you can work with. Now you can turn on the editor part of your brain. I would counsel you, though, still don't decide what the song is about, because as soon as you make that decision, then you've cut off your options to a point that is not helpful. The other thing is, I was given a really great piece of advice by somebody I really respect a long time ago. Um, and he said that if you're writing a song and you write down a line and you go, ugh, I can't say that. There's no way I can say that. He said that's the line you got to keep.
Oh no.
Yeah. If it's the line, if it makes you cringe, not because it's bad, but it makes you cringe because you're afraid that someone is going to hear it and go, oh, and get pissed off at you or whatever, that's the line you keep because that's something that you mean to say. And the good news also is the person that you think is going to get pissed off at you will not know what that line is about. I can tell you that. I can honestly tell you that I have never been punched in the face, and I richly deserve to be punched in the face for the things that I write sometimes. So you got to lean into the embarrassment, and remember. And a good thing to remember too is that it's your damn song. Nobody else has to see this thing or hear this thing until you're ready to show them this thing. So this is the time to be really, really, really honest, or really silly or stupid, or write down stuff that appeals to you for reasons that you cannot figure out, but that is really not in any way cool to other people. Don't show it to other people yet. Like, showing songs to other people before they're done is also bad, because then they're getting their editorial mitts on it before you have a chance to do that, and that's not, that's not great. There are co-writing situations where you can kind of do a bit of that, but that requires a huge level of trust between people, and it's, and it doesn't always work no matter how good the other writer is. It doesn't always work when you try and do that.
I'm tempted to ask if you could give any specifics about things that you that came to mind that you couldn't say, that you ended up saying. I don't know if we need to go there. We don't need to go there.
No, I don't think we do. I don't think we do. But it's all stuff that means something to me,
Yeah.
So those are the jumping points that I use. Those are the jumping off points that I use lyrically. I'm wondering if anybody's got any questions on that kind of stuff. If there's anybody out there that would like to ask a question or give an example or say anything. Is there anyone?
Few comments. Okay. Adam Baxter says Sean has the voice of an angel.
Nice. Adam Baxter.
He's not wrong. Trevor Hoskins says, good evening from Arnold's Cove. Liking these virtual chats and shows. Crowd from around the bay can enjoy.
Arnold's Cove.
Yeah. And
Dan Smith country.
Yeah. Gregory Loftus on Facebook says, I really like the a river, not a well metaphor from earlier.
It's totally true, though, isn't it? It's totally, you will find that it is true. There's a lot of unhelpful ideas. Like, I often think about this because when you talk about songwriting, because sometimes I'll do workshops and stuff for corporate folks, right? As a kind of a team building exercise or kind of a creative thinking exercise. And as soon as you say songwriting, people get really freaked out, They really do. Oftentimes they'll get freaked out about, I imagine that dance is the same way. Like, say the word dance and people just flop sweat starts happening right away because it's like, this is not what I do. But there's a whole lot of unhelpful myths, and that whole myth about writer's block and the well running dry and all that stuff, that's really unhelpful, but it's really deeply ingrained in people. Inspiration, that's really deeply ingrained in people. Only certain creative types of people who have a natural facility for it get to write songs, which is absolutely untrue, because the process is open to everyone. There's no reason why you cannot. It's just your thoughts. So everybody's having those, presumably. So, there's a bunch of things that we tell ourselves that just gets in the way. And again, that's the critical part of your mind. And the critical part of your mind has no place in the process until I'd say about, you got to be like 75% of the way through before you even begin like thinking, is that the right verb tense? Like, and at that point, and I mean, that's where, for me personally, I'm very picky and exacting, but only right at the end. Up until that point, I give myself permission to do stuff that makes to do and say stuff that makes no sense at all. Because eventually, oftentimes, stuff that appears to make no sense will come to make sense later. And I'll give an example from my own song catalog. This happens quite a bit. If you're writing a song so you're writing a song about something and then it changes into a song about something else. So I was writing a song about the possibility of hitting a moose on the Bonavista Highway, because my headlights were out, and it's very moosey, and through the process, so I had 5 or 6 pages of stuff, much of which was about roads and moose and cars and all of that stuff. But the stuff that really appealed to me was kind of outside that. The stuff that I sort of highlighted and pulled out was and then the song that I thought was about one thing, that thought was about this moose accident potential thing, ended up being a song about one of my kids, right? Because that's what my mind was on. So the jumping off point was all about moose and cars and stuff, but my mind gave me a bunch of this other information. And had I early on in the process gone, oh, it's a song about hitting a moose, and then I'd be sitting there, it would have taken 10 times as long to write the song, because I'd be constantly trying to apply the critical part of my mind to crush this stuff into some kind of form, instead of just obeying this creative impulse. And that happens to me constantly, where I don't realize, I think I'm writing a song about one thing, and then once the song is done, I realize it's about something else. And if I had made the call on it earlier on in the process, I would not have ended up with the song that I have, which is the song that I like.
Which song is that?
Panic Steers was the song about the moose. But it happens all the time. I think I'm writing songs about. I write songs about weather a lot. That end up being songs about other things, but that's just my personal tendency. So once you get your big bucket of ideas, once you get your bathtub full of ideas happening, and start filtering it down. So the filtering process, then you give your critical mind something to do, which it does what it does best, which is just say, I like it or I don't. And don't let it get any further beyond that. Also, it's really important that the question is not, is this cool or is it not? That's a terrible question to ask yourself, because then whether something is, whether you like it or not, is one thing. That's about you and your feelings and what you actually want to say, because you don't know what you want to say. Honestly, you don't. The subconscious mind knows what you want to say, but you don't actually know yet. And as soon as you start thinking about whether or not something is going to be cool, or whether somebody else is going to like it, then you're playing a guessing game about somebody else's preferences, which ultimately you can never know, and is only going to make your song worse. That's why you see, like, there's so many examples of people who have these amazing, beautiful first records, and then they have that thing, the sophomore jinx, where it comes along, where instead of having an entire lifetime to write the songs, now they have, a year while their, career is taken off. They have a year to write a whole bunch more songs, and there's a whole bunch of people saying, oh, well, what would be cool is if you did this, or what would be cool is if you did that. No. And then you're trying to write for other people. And that's where the trouble goes. And the good news about the complete collapse of the music industry is, if there's no money to be made,
Unless you're
then there's
Justin
no brass
Bieber,
ring to
then
grab for.
no one's telling you what songs.
Exactly. If there's no brass ring to grab for, and then why not just write whatever the hell you want? The one really important, I say this all the time, but the one exception to this rule, and he comes up with wicked songs all the time as a result, I think he's the exception that proves the rule, is Alan Doyle. Alan Doyle told me one time, and I do not doubt it for a moment, because dude knows how to, like, he's so quick, and his songcraft is so solid. But he said to me one time that when he'll write a song and he'll picture the crowd at Salmon Fest, and he'll start singing the song, and he'll go, every once in a while I'll just sort of check out on the crowd out of Salmon Fest and see if they're enjoying themselves, and if they're not, I take it in another direction. And he's the only person that I know that is able to apply this and have a song come out the other end that is a good song. And I think it's probably because he's being a bit facetious about what his methods are. I think Alan tries a lot harder than he lets on. Alan.
Well, he's gigged in front of so many people too, right? I guess.
Yeah,
maybe
but he's consummate. He's a consummate
sense.
craftsman anyway, man. He's an extremely talented songwriter, and there are people who will sort of, there are people who will minimize what he's been able to do, but it ain't easy. He's very, very good at his job.
God, yeah. Doug Lehman says, wondering how you start to combine words with music. Do you compile a list of musical ideas when you're collecting cool ideas for words?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. My method, and I think this is probably true of a whole bunch of the guitar nerds out there. My method, because I am a guitar player, and this can be a bit of a trap sometimes, is the hum and strum method, where I will wander around the house with the guitar on, randomly smashing away on something, and then I'll hit a musical idea that I like. And that generally is not a really big problem to come up with those stuff. I find that I'm always swimming around, and I think a lot of people are like this. I'm swimming around in music ideas, and it's the lyrical ideas that are tougher to get. I don't play the piano well, but that can be helpful too, because ideas that I might ignore on a guitar, if I try and play them on a piano, like on a guitar, I get around pretty good. On a piano, like if I can mash myself out a 4-chord wonder on a piano, I'm pretty impressed. Pretty impressed with myself, and it helps me to simplify. So playing instruments I don't actually know how to play is super helpful, because I'll come up with an idea that if I played it on a guitar, I would ignore as overly simplistic.
Or you hit notes that you wouldn't jump to notes that you wouldn't expect to jump to.
Yeah, and I got little tiny sausagey fingers, so pianos are very, very hard. I played the saxophone in Monlab Band, and all I can think about when I think of woodwinds is the taste of bamboo and how gross that is, and how bad that sounds. But, maybe I'd be able to squawk out something on a saxophone that I could use for some further purposes. What other sort of automatic processes similar to lyrics that I'll do to get musical ideas sometimes. Everybody who is recording for RPM, or many people who are recording, are using digital audio workstations. God love the digital audio workstation. And they have a lot of functions.
Name, though. Duh.
Digital audio workstation.
Yes, it sounds so serious.
It does sound serious, doesn't it? But if you're using Reaper or GarageBand or whatever the hell, it doesn't actually matter. There's all kinds of stuff that'll give you that kind of functionality. But but there are times when I'll use automatic processes that you can find inside of those machines. And one thing that I do enjoy doing is sticking random songs into the DAW and then using the reverse function. So you can actually take a track and then reverse the track so that it's playing backwards. And then I'll listen in all
Do
these
you
cases, I'm
do you
listening
end
for
up writing
things.
songs about the devil more often that way, or
Yes, yes, yes. They're all about the devil on a certain level, anyway. Um, but it's remarkable what you can get just by doing by putting your thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Uh, so I'm not saying that you copy a song from beginning to end. What I'm saying is you throw something on and you listen to it backwards, and you listen to the way that a melody moves or swoops up and down, or the way a chord changes. And sometimes when you listen to it in the other direction, it'll give you, and again, as with the words, you don't need a whole you don't need a complete phrase. You don't need a complete chord progression. You don't need a complete series of musical thoughts. What you need is something that grabs your attention, that makes your brain light up and go, "Ooh, I like that." So something that is surprising and fun about a melody. So you go, "Oh, I like those notes. I like it. I like this note, this thing that goes like, oh, great, okay, cool." And very often, if you go back to your list of words, you will find a word where you can kind of make that happen. And again, like, the question always has to be a kind of a binary question. Like, I've taken these two words and I've paired them to these two notes that I thought were exciting. Do I like it? And if you like it, then good. And if you don't like it, then move. But again, quickly, quickly, quickly. So I'll do a bit of that. Randomizing of any kind is really fun, because then it's something you can make a decision about. So I'll take random sequences of notes. I used to do it. I mean, God, I'm talking when I was a teenager. I would do this. Take a paper bag and write all of the possible note choices in a given key, just so I wasn't, writing, Schoenberg or something like.
yes,
So I'm
right.
like, so I take the choices in a different key, and I'd write a whole bunch of them out, and then I'd rip them all up and I'd throw them in a paper bag, and then I'd pull them out, and then I'd just put them in a sequence, and then I'd play them on the guitar. And almost always it was terrible gobbledygook that sounded like crap. But what I had then was I had a 6-note sequence, and I'd go, what do I like about this? What don't I like about this? And in the question of if I find so I've got a sequence of notes, and I'm going like, so it's so I get this, and I'm like, well, I don't love that, but if I change that last note, I kind of do. I did find something that I like there, or if I jump that note up an octave, I did find something that I like there. So you start with something random, because then you can use that editorial part of your brain that works so well to edit, to take the thing that exists and edit it, right? And then I find once you get melodies sort of take off after a while. Once you get one small idea, you can kind of, I find that it's suggestive of other things,
Is it is so with the random process kind of stuff? I don't know. Maybe is it like different levels of editorial? Like with the random stuff, you're given something and then you can react to it and
Yeah,
either like it or hate it,
yeah,
and then that's the first level. And then once you kind of like it or have some feeling about it, then you can engage the deeper
yep,
critical part of it. Yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
So long as you're not doing it, yeah, just don't do it at the same. Don't try and have ideas about it. Like, just get quickly about it. Once you get, I engage the editing once I have a verse, like, because I think of things, because I know there's a lot of people who are not thinking this way anymore. Like, music is evolving, the way people create it is evolving. People are recording and producing music while they write it. It's no longer always sitting on the edge of your bed with a guitar and a pad and a pen, and it's not like that for me either, right? Oftentimes The last record that I made, there was when I started playing the songs live, I realized like I had a song called Swiss Chalet, and the first time I went downtown to play it, I realized I'd never actually played it. Played it and sung it. The song had been a song for a year, but I'd never actually played it and sung it beginning to end,
Wow.
because that's not how I'd written it. I'd written it in the box, tracking stuff, changing stuff, moving stuff around, and singing it with different lyrics and different melodies and all that stuff. So the thing that finally came out was not a performance, right? And I think that happens a lot.
You're like punching in
So
vocals, like in
yeah,
spots that you like.
yeah, and changing stuff and moving things around. So I think in terms of verses and choruses. So when usually for me, once I have verse one, what usually comes for me is verse one, and I love a really strong first line. I love like a first line where it's like, "Hey, hey, come here. I want to tell you something."
Like
First
you're
line,
writing a novel or something.
Yeah,
Gotta have a good
just like,
first line.
it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. How you like
Yeah.
that? So I'm always going for a first line that makes an impression. And once I have a verse and a chorus, usually then I'll start turning on the critical mind. And the problem that people run into, and folks out in interweb land, I'm sure that many of you have this problem, and it is the verse two curse, where you've got verse one and you dig verse one and you've said something that you like in verse one, and then the chorus is like, and here's what the song is about, and I totally mean this, and this is epic and great, and then verse two is, I don't know, who can say? We don't know.
Right. You
We don't
set
have
up this
anything.
pattern and then like having trouble fitting this pattern and
Then
repeating
you
the
run into
pattern.
verse two problems, and I think verse two problems are the biggest time suck. If you're writing on a deadline, the verse two problem to me would be the most ginormous time suck. It's because now you've got a direction for the song, you've got a shape to the song, you've got a melody going, and you'd think that that would make it easier, but all it does is make it harder. So for me, to solve the verse two problem, which is my most consistent problem, is my nemesis. I love writing a bridge. Bridges are fun. I'll talk about that in a second, but verse two pisses me off to a tremendous degree. And a good way, in another kind of automatic writing way, to get over verse two is you take verse one and replace all of the nouns. Take verse one and replace all the nouns. So now you've got,
Oh my god,
and it
that's
doesn't
such a
need to
good
make,
idea.
and it doesn't need to make sense. Like oftentimes it won't make any sense. But replace all the nouns, use some of the words that were in your big bucket of words that you thought were cool or whatever. Just
Mad
replace
Lib it.
them. Yeah, exactly. Mad Lib it. Not because that's what you're going to get, and not because that's going to make for a good verse two, but because now you have a thing, and you're looking at this thing, and you go, well, I don't like this. So now you identify, what don't I like about this? And then you can fix the problem. And that's where your critical mind is awesome. Critical mind is awesome at fixing problems. It's terrible at coming up with creative solutions for things. So give it something to work with. That's something that I do quite a bit of. Or change the tense of something. Like, so
Oh
first
yes.
verse is in present tense.
Mhm.
Take the first verse, move it into past tense. You know, the thing about verse two, the thing about songs in general is, it's a story. No matter how short the story is, the story needs to move forward. So if verse one is my girlfriend's mean and I am sad, verse two cannot be my girlfriend is still mean and I'm still sad, because we've already said that, right? We have established that your girlfriend is mean and as a result you are sad. What we need is we need to answer questions. Any question that is raised in verse one, you kind of want to, if not answer it, then move it along. So the questions say, my girlfriend is mean and I am sad. So verse two, um, an obvious question is, in what ways is your girlfriend mean?
Yes.
Um,
Could it be you?
Or like, or it could be in am I only sad, or do I feel other things as well in addition to being sad? Or it can be whatever you think. Like why is this something that I let myself in for? I'm married to a very lovely person, by the way. I'm using this strictly as an example.
Yes.
But I have certainly written my girlfriend's "Mean and I Am Sad" song, and I've definitely written the version of that song that goes nowhere for 3 verses. Very hard to listen to. It's very hard to listen to. So you have to move it along. You have to give people a reason to keep on listening because it is a story, even if the story is 1 second long, even if the story has no plot exactly, you got to expand on things. So I find that really helpful in getting through the verse 2 problem. Ask yourself the questions that the first verse raises. Ask yourself the obvious questions that you would ask if you were listening to the first verse. So I'm just trying to think now. In the song I mentioned in Swiss
If you're
Chalet,
in therapy
like
or something, what was
yeah.
your therapist?
Well, you're in therapy with yourself, I guess. So I start a little in the story Swiss Chalet. I came up with crying in the parking lot of Swiss Chalet. You had a hell of a night. You took a personal day. You bought some Christmas decorations from the PRC. You tried to do it for love. They wouldn't have it for free. And I'm like, okay, so there's something going on there. You work in a place where they do not get you, and you're trying really hard to be nice, and they're just not getting it. And as a result, you're destroyed. Now that's what I was writing about. What people get out of it is another awesome thing, because people don't need to. What people get out of the song is just as important as what I'm putting in. But so then when I went to the second verse, my question that I asked myself was, well, I'm just going to picture the place where this person works. And why is this place so fucking toxic? And now I describe the place, right? That's really helpful. Descriptions in general. I know I'm jumping around a lot, guys. Sorry.
This is great.
I'm on the ADHD meds. I really am, but I'm jumping around a lot. The something to pay attention to, yeah, is descriptions. Like when you get stuck, when you're stuck somewhere, or even as a third potential jumping off point. This is also a really good thing to do if you don't have anything in mind and you're not really feeling anything. Basic describing an object without saying what it is. Sitting where you're sitting, looking around the room, and describing an object without saying what that object is great. Because it'll give you, it gives you content that you can edit, for one thing. Even if it sucks, it gives you content you can edit. And very often, the attitude that you bring, the feelings that you are having, are reflected in your attitude about what you see around you. It affects the thing that you pick and what you choose to focus on about it. And so all the stuff you're feeling and thinking, that's all going to come out in that description. So on one day, I can look out my window and I can see a sunrise that's beautiful and birds and all that kind of stuff. And another day I can look out my window and I can see exactly the same scene. And all I see is garbage cans and the bird crap on my car from the majestic birds flying overhead. So it really does change depending on what your mood and feelings are. So descriptions are really important. But that's a nice jumping off point. And oftentimes if you're faced with a verse 2 problem, what you can do is describe the circumstances in which verse 1 takes place if you're stuck. And that'll give you somewhere to go, at least, right? And oftentimes if you're doing a 3-verse thing, which is pretty standard in pop songs, you can take your perspective. So you take whatever you did in verse 1 and you either explode it out or you push it in. So it's like, I'm in this house doing this thing. I'm in this house making coffee. This is the me making coffee song. And then verse 2 can either be about, and outside on the street, all these people are also making coffee. And then around the world, all these other people are making coffee. Or it can be, I'm in this house making coffee and I'm thinking about this thing and I'm in the cup and I'm stirring with the spoon. And inside this, there's a chemical reaction taking place and we can bring it down to that level. So if you're thinking about places for the story to go, you can think about either exploding it outward or moving it inward, because that's motion. Like something is happening. It's going somewhere. And what your chorus is, choruses would be, to me, here is what your song is about. Like, and what I'm trying to say here is, like, if you think of the chorus as, and again, like, these are not hard and fast rules. These are just ways to get you into the zone, into the area where you can have something to look at and go, do I like this? And if the answer is no, then you change it to something else. It's fine. But if you're stuck and you're writing on a deadline, use the phrase, writing on a deadline, that's a good way to get something that is editable, is to go, when you hit the chorus, you go, what is this song about? Write it down in the plainest English that you can. And I mean, that's not really my forte. Very often the stuff I write is kind of opaque, except when it's not. Like, I'm not, and I'm probably going to get tons of hate for this. I have in the past. I am not a Kiss fan. There, I said it. I'm not a Kiss fan.
What are you saying?
I saw them on the, I saw them in Winnipeg on the Animalized tour that was post-makeup, pre-makeup, and Paul Stanley had the gall to say to a crowd in Winnipeg, Winnipeg is the greatest party town in the whole wide world. And a guy dressed up as Gene Simmons about 3 rows over went, boo! Like, anyway, that's just so maybe that formed my associations with Kiss. But the thing that I will say about Kiss, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, masters of the chorus. Like, what does Paul Stanley want? Paul Stanley wants to rock and roll all night and party every day. And that's what that song is about. And they're all like that.
It's pretty clear.
And they do a really effective job of doing that. I'm not suggesting that you have to be that upfront with it, but they understand what a chorus is for. The chorus is, tell them what the name of the song is and tell them what it's about. And that's a very direct, and it doesn't always have to be that way, obviously. That's not the way that I always write them. But again, if you're stuck and you're like, I don't know where to start, that's a great place to start. Like, what is this song called? What is this song about? Chorus. That's helpful when you're writing, because there's all kinds of other things you hear about a chorus which are completely unhelpful, which is the chorus should, have a lift. It should lift from it's like, well, I don't have any ideas, so but I can't lift, what I'm saying? So that's something. Tell them what the song is called, if nothing else. Sometimes the chorus is just the title of the song over and over and over and over and over again. There's a lot of great songs do that. With bridges, so sometimes you'll get your verse and then you get your chorus in a traditional structure, right? You get your verse, chorus, bridge, double chorus, and you're out of there. And in my case, you're out of there in like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That's how long you want to be. It's like, in order to get a full hour-long set, I got to play like 345 songs now. But the
Spotify doesn't pay you anymore past 20 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So for bridges, what I like to think of with the bridge is your alternate reality moment, like that thing in the like you'll see it, in the like the sitcom trope where it's like, I remember like it was just yesterday. I always think of the bridge as being the sonic equivalent of that, where the bridge, the thing that you're thinking is, so you've got this whole thing going, and if you're stuck for a bridge and you feel like you need one, you feel like you owe it to yourself to at least try to get a bridge, because you don't always need one. You don't always want one, you know? But if you feel like you owe it to yourself to get a bridge going, a good way to try to jump into that is to say to yourself, but if things were different, what would happen? Okay, here's the bridge. So the song is going along, and then the bridge kind of goes, here's a complete change of perspective. So if things were different, what would happen? Or if I was looking at it from your point of view, what would you say? Or like, this is your chance to write a completely different song inside the song you already have, sometimes in 2 lines. So oftentimes when you're writing a song, there'll be another perspective, you know, that you're kind of toying with or thinking about. The bridge is the place to put that. The bridge is the place where you kind of go, the bridge is the place where you throw in the bit where maybe you're not right. Like, maybe your girlfriend isn't mean. Like, maybe she has a point. That's the bridge, right? And that, I think, makes for a way more, that takes you to another place, and it presses the reset button. So when you come back into the chorus and you start telling people your girlfriend's mean again, and all that stuff, it's like it has more impact again. Yeah,
I love that idea. I love
So
that
that's
idea. It's
songs,
like a
you know.
reflective moment, you know, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a window into
Yeah.
the song from another, someone else looking in or something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can do the same, and musically it works in exactly the same way. Musically, you can have if you're gonna borrow a chord from another key, or if you're gonna get a little funky and weird, like, now's the time. Like, if you're doing your C, D, and G number, and there's not a damn thing wrong with a C, D, G 3-chord wonder. They're freaking brilliant. So many great ones, and so hard to write, despite how much people crap on them. You got a C, D, and G wonder, and and for the bridge, you want, what you're looking for there again is to press the reset button, because now people know what to expect and all that. And so now is the time. Like, oftentimes people, you know, will go to the relative minor key or whatever, and that's kind of expected a lot. But, you know, if you want to do a little bit of a key change, you know, and then kind of stumble your way back to the original key or not, like, that's a good thing to do. I often, in my own writing, and I'm not saying that this is a good thing necessarily or a bad thing, but oftentimes I have written songs where I get to the bridge and I'm like, oh, well, I don't really feel like going back to the other song now, so the song's over. That's but so I'll do verse, chorus,
Bridge
chorus,
to
bridge
the next
out.
song.
I'll do bridge and I'm done. That happens. That happens quite a bit in mine, and I, you know, I think that if you were at Berklee College of Music or something, they'd hit you over the head with a ruler for doing that. I don't think that's something you're supposed to do, but
It's probably
that's what I end up doing.
contemporary solution. You know, it's like a ending, like a Philip Glass song that just ends. You know,
Yeah.
like, that's fine.
Yeah. You know, I don't know how contemporary. Whatever.
Well, I don't know.
Does anyone have any questions? That's an incredible amount of rambling I just did.
Impressive.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, Dwight. So we're at 10 minutes after the hour. Just to give you a heads up. But yeah, no questions. But from the audience. But if anybody does have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll bring them to Sean when there's a good moment.
Here's another thing, and I might be letting myself in for something here. But you may recall, way back in the mists of time when we started this thing, and I was talking about ways to jump off into a song and get some lyrical ideas happening. And I mentioned the talk for 2 minutes on a topic into your phone method, which works really, really great. If there's anybody who finds themselves intrigued by that, but without somebody that can listen back to it, if you want to email it to me, I will listen through, pick out the things that I found interesting, and send it back to you. So SeanRPanting@gmail.com. So if you want to do that, and you're like, because you don't have very much time, guys. So if if
Lots
that's a
of
method
time.
you
What
would
are you
like to,
talking about? So much
if you would
time.
like to,
What is that, right?
use that
27?
method, and you feel like it would be useful to have an outside set of ears, and you don't really have an outside set of ears, or you don't feel like playing this for your roommate, or the only other person in your house is your girlfriend who's mean to you. I should not say that. That's not nice. It's not a nice thing to say. But I'm just making a, that's strictly a joke. But yeah, Sean Panting at Gmail. So I'll keep an eye on my phone. If you want to send me your voice memos, and I'll have a listen to them and be the objective set of ears, and I'll send back what I think was fun that you said. I'm happy to do that.
That's an amazing offer. Thank you.
That's fun. I may live to regret it, but here we go.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
your inbox just.
I do. I
I
do
see
sleep
two
in the
people in the
nighttime.
chat have already responded and said awesome and amazing. Randy Matthews says amazing, man. Would love to do that. And
Yeah,
Laura
by all means,
Sensun
do it.
says awesome.
Yep, by all means. I am. I live to serve. I am your monkey. Let's write some songs.
Let's make
Writing songs is a laugh.
make it happen. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I find that whenever there is a deadline, or like people often say about the RPM challenge that it makes it helps them turn off that part of their brain, the critical part, and so it helps them reconnect with the kind of fun element of songwriting, right?
Yeah.
So even if outside of the RPM challenge, like you set yourself these time constraints or things like
All
that?
the time. All the time. Oftentimes, as a starting point, like if something wants to go in another direction, I'm not going to stop it from doing that. That's silly. Like my brain has given me something for free. I'm not going to turn it down. But just to make the whole task less daunting, and this is something people can try too, is like my lifelong wish is to write a one chord song, and I've never done it. Never been able to do it. And so
What's an
there are
example of a
times.
one chord song? I don't even know. Like,
Well,
are
this
they
is a
out
one
there?
chord punk rock song about a slime,
Yes.
of course. But
Yeah.
there are songs with almost no chord changes in them. I can't think of one off the top of my head because I'm trying too hard to think now. But I would love to write I would love to write that kind of song, and I've never been able to. But oftentimes I will narrow things down to I will narrow the funnel so narrow that I cannot help but get something. And again, once you have something, you can decide whether you like it or not. Right? So there are times I wrote a song called Labrador Motors, and I was in Labrador, and the challenge that I set was, I said, okay, it's going to be an A. And it's going to be about whatever I see the first thing I lay eyes on when I open the drapes. And then I opened the drapes and I saw the Labrador Motors sign, and that's what the song was called, and that's where I started. Now, it went a bunch of different directions, but the great thing about it was it got me out of my head and into writing songs right away. Because if I had just sat there on the edge of the bed with any number of options open to me, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere. And as is so often the case, I would have sat there noodling around on my guitar, playing stuff I already knew how to play, and then you play a few Aussie riffs, and then you know eat a bag of chips, and then but to focus yourself and to force that creative impulse to come on you, you don't need to wait for it to happen. And oftentimes all you need is a really narrow set of really, really narrow set of parameters. Like if you find yourself not getting anywhere, it's not that you don't have enough choices, it's that you have too many. If you find yourself getting paralyzed, narrow further and further and further and further and further until you have no choice but to squeeze out this thing. Then once you're looking at the thing, you go, oh, that's actually pretty good. Or you go, well, that's terrible. And then you just do it again until you get one that's good. And then when you get the good one, now you're off to the races, right?
Then you write a bridge, and then
you write a bridge.
end the song.
Then you end the song. That's over.
Maybe
it's only a song. I mean,
it could be anything.
Yeah. And then if you don't like it, you can just
throw it away. Put it away.
Never play it. Yeah, never play it. I would never, if you're writing on a laptop or something, I would never ever throw anything out, no matter how excruciatingly embarrassing it is. People talk about erasing their search histories if they were about to die, and sure, I can see why you would want to do that. But there is a hard drive I have down here in the blanket fort, my studio. There's a hard drive down here that I would die of mortification if people saw the garbagey lyrics that were all over that thing. But I'm not throwing them out. Because I will look back through, there's times I'll look back through things that are 3 and 4 and 5 and 10 years old, and they still won't be any better, but there'll be a kernel of something in there that makes sense to me now that didn't make sense to me then, or that gets a reaction out of me now that it didn't get then, or that inspires me to do better than that because, my God, that's terrible.
That's great. It's like, you wouldn't want to throw out a journal, right?
Oh yeah, well, exactly the same thing. Like, it's hard. Going back to those journals is hard, but but invariably, there is something in there that is of use, or you wouldn't have done it in the first place.
Well, Sean, this has been amazing. Thank you. This is all
good times.
Been really enlightening and excellent advice. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add, or any final thoughts?
I don't think I do. I don't think I do. I think just don't overthink it off the top. Don't decide what you're writing about until it's written. I think that's really important. Don't let your brain be a jerk to you. Just get some stuff done before you, and then, let your brain obsess about what it's best at obsessing about, which is minutia, the details. And that's where if you want your song to be really tight and have and have your lyrics be really specific and have exactly the right words and all that stuff, that's when you can turn on the critical part of your brain. But up until that point, you gotta let the elves and do their job. The elves that are down there in the workshop do their job. But then you can be ruthless after that.
Amazing. Good callback to the elves too from the very beginning.
Thank you. I actually do think of them as physical elves that.
Okay.
Yeah, like
in Santa's workshop.
This is not a time to unpack all of that. There's a lot going on there, but that's it.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. And
hey.
Again, if you have any follow-up questions, pass them on to us, and we'll get them to Sean, or with that email address that he offered up earlier.
SeanRpanting@gmail.com.
You can
send them over.
Send him your voice memos, ranting about something for 2 minutes. That's such a good offer, really. I might do that myself.
I'll tell you what sounds fun to me, and and you might think I'm wrong, and that's cool. But you'll know.
Yeah, right.
Because sometimes when you do the coin flip, flip, and you go, oh, I don't care between these two options. You do coin flip, and it says heads. Oh, it's option one.
I really want
and then
the
you're
other
disappointed.
one.
Then you know you should have done. Then you know. So you can so if you disagree, so if I say something and you disagree with it, well, then you know anyway.
Perfect. Well, good luck everybody out there. It's February 27th. and you got time. You got time.
Get her done. You can do it.
Yeah, the good thing about the RPM this year and last year we started, we opened it up so that people can, like, if it's not just an album, it's not just 10 songs or 35 minutes of music. You can submit anything from a track to an EP to a LP to a box set. If you have a box set in you could probably do a box set in this time. Just turn that brain off.
just turn it off. It won't be good, but it'll be there.
Yeah, you do the process after you submit it, and then you look at it again.
That's right. Yeah.
But that's yeah. Anyway, that's out there. rpmchallenge.com. And Sean, where can people find your stuff?
Oh, well, I'm on to Facebook, of course. Sean Panting on Facebook. I'm on Spotify and on Tidal and all of these marvelous places, the interwebs.
Fred's Records.
Fred's Records in a big way, yeah. If you like physical product, do go to Fred's. They have. I only live 10 minutes away, so if there's a big run on Sean Panting product, as I expect there will be today.
Absolutely.
I'll be there to replace it.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you, and
thanks, Alan.
lovely talking to you as always.
Yeah, this has been excellent fun. I hope somebody else had as good a time as I had.
I sure did.
Yeah, excellent, great. Well then, fine.
No, everybody else doesn't matter. It's just me. I got great things out of it. Okay, thanks
All right.
everybody. Bye.
See you guys.